Hello, everyone. Today I'm joined by our guest, Cathy Cain-Blank, who was actually a speaker yesterday at our chapter meeting for XPX Chicago. Cathy is president of the WDG Agency. Welcome, Cathy.
Hi, thank you, Cheryl. Nice to meet you.
Great. If you could give everybody an introduction as far as your organization and your background, that'd be great.
Sure. Well, I may sound 150 when I say this, but I started the business back in 2003. And at that point, we specialized in email marketing for one vertical market. And the whole concept of what we did was about keeping in touch with your clients and your prospects, because ultimately that helps drive business. And a lot of companies in that industry weren't doing it. So it was definitely a hole that we looked to fill. Over the years, clients asked for more help. They asked for help with social media, with blogging, with sales messaging. That's always a biggie. And eventually with operations. And process matters a lot when it comes to your productivity and your profitability. So we've really evolved and grown in different directions and went through a rebrand at the beginning of this year. And the WDG Agency is our new name. It stands for We Drive Growth. So
nice.
Yeah. Works for us. It's all good.
And so that kind of segues into our topic. Yesterday's program was named Social Selling. So yes. Very interesting. Could you explain that to the community?
Sure. First of all, the concept is not selling on social, it's social selling. And there's an important distinction to be made. Even though, and we talked specifically yesterday about LinkedIn, because we're talking B2B, and that's primarily where this audience is. To me, there's a simple way to define it. First of all, it's communicating online where your customers and your prospects are. Obviously, again, in this case, it's LinkedIn. But even more important is that you're communicating in a tone and in an approach that is substantive and helpful and human, because it has to replicate what we do when we're face to face, even though there isn't as much of that now.
Right.
So we have to try to essentially replicate the face-to-face experiences and exchanges the traditional ways, right? Pre-COVID, where we would go to our regular networking meetings and go to trade shows and conferences. And I know that a lot of that is back in place, but there are also still plenty of hybrid events, and there's still a ton of online communicating going on. I mean, I'm in Chicago and you are in the East Coast, you're in Boston?
Orlando.
Orlando, okay. So to me, communicating like this can feel like we really are sitting together in a room. You got to make the most of the technology. But so social selling has to be really just carrying over what we always did face to face in different environments. That's kind of our definition, so that you're interacting and you're engaging with your audience, even though it's online with LinkedIn.
And do you feel like a lot of business owners are open to this, or is there some hesitation when?
Well, interesting question. There are plenty of business owners and leaders and principals and salespeople who they're still pretty uncomfortable with it. And they are taking the easiest way to go about it. Okay, I'll like, and maybe I'll share, and I'll skim through. But they aren't really capitalizing on what they could do in the way of really connecting with people who are their customers, clients, prospects, the works. Takes a lot to get used to. It depends on whether you were raised with a mouse in your hand. Depends on your mindset. I can't even tell you how many people over the years who have said, well, I'm a face-to-face guy. This doesn't work for me. You need it to work for you. So you need to adapt.
Yeah, interesting, because, we use LinkedIn as, our main channel, just because it is the #1 professional website still.
Yes.
Curious as to how the rest of the middle market companies are opening up to that.
It's tough. I will say there's also an inherent challenge with LinkedIn, and that is that, yes, companies can set up their company pages, profiles, that's terrific, but it's the individuals, it's the people that we're choosing to relate to and interact with and work with. So LinkedIn was originally designed for those individuals to set up their profile how they want. And it can get a little messy when if the company itself wants you to handle your profile a certain way, well, they don't own it, right? So the ideal is that individuals learn how beneficial it can be to them to make good use of the LinkedIn tools and technology, even though that means they're going to cross the line a little bit and they're going to be promoting their company and their company's services as part of the process.
Great. And so I'm sure you gave a great presentation yesterday, and I'm guessing that included some advice or tips to business owner clients as well as advisors, especially those who are looking to set up a social media presence. Could you just give us a couple of takeaways from yesterday's program?
Sure. The main one that I emphasize is this whole approach to communicating in terms of making your messages, your reach outs custom. So many people take advantage of the automated process of having a message sent to John Jones. Cathy Cain-Blank would like to connect with you. Okay, don't do that. That was pretty much what I spoke at length about and shared lots of examples and exchanges, because you have 300 characters to do a custom intro to connect message. And you want the recipients, first of all, you want to handpick who it is that you're reaching out to try and connect with, but you want to reference why you're reaching out. You need to make them feel like this is a one-to-one relationship that you're after, and that you're not trying to connect with large numbers of people just to say you have tons of connections and then work on followers. So you can't make it about yourself. It has to be genuine. One of the pieces of advice I gave was pick 5 people a month that maybe you want to try to get to know, as opposed to just thinking, well, we could work with everybody in this one industry. It's not realistic. It's not reasonable. So pick the people, just as if you went to a live event and you thought, oh, you know what? These people here from XYZ companies, I think that we could be helpful to one another, so I want to meet them. You need to target who you're really after online as well in LinkedIn. So the customized approach is huge, and that applies to after the connection as well. Don't just send messages that are automated and pop up to say, send so-and-so a happy birthday message or congrats on your anniversary. It doesn't mean anything. It's too easy and it's superficial. So that was one of the takeaways.
And this is through direct messages through LinkedIn or email? Direct email?
No. We were talking about LinkedIn because if you want to connect with somebody, you've got 300 characters to send that message that says, hey, I'd love to connect with you in so many words, and gave examples of ways to personalize the messages. Once you're connected, you can then use LinkedIn's tool InMail to send a message whenever you want, up to 1,900 characters. It's a weird way to gauge the length of an email, but that's LinkedIn. And you can have a subject line, which is required, of up to 200 characters. So even then, when you're really starting to communicate, you need to be specific. You need to not go crazy. You need to make it easy to read, put some bullet points in, or write a couple of lines and include a link at that point to something like a resource, a PDF that you think might be useful to them. You're trying to start your dialogue. And sometimes people are more receptive to communicating on LinkedIn because they're getting 200 emails a day through Outlook or Gmail, wherever their email is hosted. So it's a great tool to keep using if it seems that the people that you've just connected with check it regularly and stay on top of their messaging.
Agreed. I love the in-message feature of LinkedIn. So I know if I receive a message through there, chances are I'm going to click on it, open it, and respond to whoever is trying to reach me.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So any last tips or advice for advisors or business owner clients that are looking to start, they just don't know where?
Sure. I can give you a number of ideas. So another topic I talked about a lot yesterday, it has to do with being strategic in terms of who you want to engage. Now, I kind of broke this out into 3 different buckets, which is based on our experience of connecting with people in every other way. First is it about your expertise that these people need? Because there will always be people who are going to be interested in you / your company based on the skill set that you bring to the table that they may be missing or in need of. The next bucket really has to do with experience in an industry. Is what your involvement in your experience relevant to helping people that way? And the third choice is simply your region. And I talked about how certain companies we ended up working with, getting to know them for different reasons, partly, right, the expertise, also industry, because they didn't care so much about the actual skills of the tools and things that we use. There are other people like that. They needed to make sure that we understood their industry. And the third, though, is region. Is some people feel more comfortable if you get the chance to work face to face, or your common ground is being in the same metropolitan area. So whatever the buckets are, you need to consider who you're reaching out to based on one of those areas, and maybe have a priority of what is likely to make you the most successful. Take a look at your best clients and see where they came from, and then try to mirror that experience in the LinkedIn world.
Great advice. And last, if you want to name any resources that our members can use, we'll make sure to include a link in the video description.
Resources. Okay. I guess, well, frankly, this isn't so much a resource as it is a recommendation.
Okay.
When you decide to really invest yourself in LinkedIn, you have to have reasonable expectations and goals. And I say that because sometimes we have them when it comes to trade shows and conferences and other meetings, but people can lose sight of that in terms of LinkedIn because they just think, well, this is easy. I should just be able to write a bunch of messages and stalk people a little bit. And of course, they're going to be interested in what it is we have to offer, but it doesn't work that way. It is really just another marketing and communications channel, along with everything else that we're all doing within our companies to communicate, keep in touch, share ideas, and make headway over time with our target audiences. It's not like a trade show where that over a 3-day period, thousands of people are going to walk by your booth, and you stand a great chance of X amount of them popping in to say, hello, and what do you do? And I like the looks of it, or your signage is interesting or colorful, and let's talk about it. So the awareness and the exposure on LinkedIn, that's half the battle. So you need to accept that that's phase 1 of what you want. And you need to make sure that you're following all the guidelines in terms of keeping your profile clean and up to date. Just a quick thing, one of the things we talked about yesterday was how you can actually have up to 3 different website links in your personal profile. Well, we've changed ours over time, but if you were to look at mine, you would see the link to our homepage. You would also see the link directly to our blog. At one point, we were linking directly to our own resources page. So take advantage of being able to offer all kinds of resources and information using your profile. Sometimes when you do all these things and you post a lot of original content, because that's another huge thing that we talked about, that's when the magic can happen. If we talk about original content for a minute or two, so as I mentioned in the beginning, it's very easy to like and share and all that, but original content, that's what people notice. So I'll give you some examples of the kinds of original content that we tend to post. When a client was hiring, we helped them with their search by doing our own post and announcement to all of our connections, because they're different from who their connections are. When a client was written about in the Boston Globe. Obviously, we helped her promote that directly on LinkedIn, but I wrote a little piece and we linked to the graphic that we set up for her to help promote it, to try to extend these important activities on behalf of clients. Weighing in a meaningful way on some other post. And I don't mean all personal, but I mean there was a leadership comment and quote that I weighed in one time, and the thing went, pretty viral, and lots of interactions came because of that. So it's the more you do that is truly fresh and original, and where you speak one-to-one from the heart, from the head, whichever it is, that's what's going to help you build your presence on LinkedIn and have more people reaching out, including old contacts, old connections that otherwise it might be hard to connect with. So that kind of content, creating that makes a big difference.
That's so true. I think the most engaging posts are the ones that are basically authentic and your own content. I can attest to that. Just having
you bet.
Well, thank you, Cathy. This was great advice, and I'm hoping that this is information that our advisors within our community can use. And who knows, it is with the hope that they may pass it along to their clients as well.
Hopefully they will. Thank you.